understand the word of it, but we learned the whole Perek. Except for those people who are worried about whether Baruch is Kesed or Chochmah or Zoh or Malchus or Bracha or Baruch Shamar. The people who are busy with the details. We learned the Perek. And although we say that the Sfiras Hagenuzis Lifnei HaTzimtzum compared to the Sfiras Hagenuzis Achar HaTzimtzum are only miyut, they're not be'en areich, it's only Gili Yahelim, it's just the same Sfiras, never done in a reduced way. On the other hand, there's a very big disparity, a very big difference between how they are Lifnei HaTzimtzum and what they are Achar HaTzimtzum. Because the Rebbe explains that Lifnei HaTzimtzum, the oid is much more. The oid is much more. The oid is much more. The oid Lifnei HaTzimtzum is much more. And B'Klolos, there's two thoughts. The first thoughts begin in the last lines on page Memches. That it says, Lifnei HaTzimtzum b'chinas ha'chochma ha'istakul b'insev baruch hu im kol ha'eshes Sfiras Hagenuzis. And after the Tzimtzum, it's Nimshacha b'fnei atzmei ve'einim u'ereves m'shali ha'bechinas. Lifnei HaTzimtzum, all the spheres are together. After the Tzimtzum, Chochmah is alone. That's a very, very big Tzimtzum. And the second idea is after the Segrayim, shenis alim ha'oyer shomeir behem kishahoyu misachtem yachad. The light, the light that's there when all the spheres are together departs. So you have two inyanim. Number one, and if you think about it, the first inyan is a lower, and the second inyan is higher. The first inyan is saying that Chochmah itself, the way it's Lifnei HaTzimtzum, it has more oyer, and after the Tzimtzum it has less oyer. And number two, the oyer that exists when all the spheres are miyuchadim together goes away when the Chochmah is separate from the other spheres. And the dogma that a gift for taking a beis out of Baruch. I'm thinking a lot about this Machon. The Rebbe Rashab is almost implying that whenever you teach children Torah, you never teach them Asias. You teach them Asias that are parts of words. It's interesting. It's fascinating. We can boil of them ganzen b'nyanim. I would like to look at their Torah. I mean, I can't imagine the Torah is more Asias than here, but what's the Rebbe Rashab saying? We teach a child a beis, and teaching him a beis. Teaching him a beis from the word Baruch.
A bit of a random question. Is it specifically, when you're teaching Beis, is it specifically Baruch, or could it be Shaykh to other words also? Meaning, at what point?
L'chayda means any word. Baruch is a Machon. Now, the problem that we have is, I'm just repeating myself, that the Sfiras Lifnei HaTzimtzum, the Sfiras Hagenuzis Lifnei HaTzimtzum, are not in a state of unification. They're not in a state of hiskalos. They're in a state of hisarvus and hisachtas. They're together. And why are they together? Because they're beligavul, and anything which is beligavul is pshitas. So it's not the pshat that when Chochmah is included in Lifnei HaTzimtzum, it's more because it's getting from the others. The Chochmah of Lifnei HaTzimtzum, as Chochmah is more Lifnei HaTzimtzum than it is Lachar HaTzimtzum. First of all, because the Chochmah is diminished. And second of all, when Chochmah sits with the other Eides, it has a shaykhs to the other Eides, which is now lost. Which means that if we really wanted to talk about this in Iyun, we wanted to really think about what the Rebbe is saying. The Rebbe uses a lot of very Eidel Oisias. The issue on the table is, how do you explain the concept of Oyer? How do you explain the concept of Oyer when it's in a state of Helam? How do you explain the concept of Oyer when it's in a state of Gilui? How do you explain the concept of Oyer when it's connected to other Eides? How do you explain the concept of Oyer when it's separate from other Eides? Because Oir. Does anybody have any thoughts? Does anybody have anything to say? And I mean it. Mit dem ganzen Herzen.
Bro, let a bison lemon.
Okay, I think that may a word consist of a certain like together instead of unification of the spheres. Is that possible?
I don't understand your question.
There's a word that represent maybe like that it's part of a certain entity, that it's part of like Iron Side. Why can't that apply here instead of focusing on the spheres? Did they work together? Did they not work together?
I don't understand your question still.
The question is that the fact that the spheres are with Argus right now. So how is it possible that together a word? Is that a question?
My question is, what are the Maimon saying? What is happening to the Eira Chochem from before the Tzimtzum to after the Tzimtzum? And you got to keep in mind two things. Thing number one, it's changed, and thing number two, it's not really changed. It's just changed a little bit.
Well, you explained that it's less. The reason why it's way more and less now and more there is because it's more white. And you're stupid, and you're not stupid, but you're a very bad Machon, which I thought was very good.
I always said it doesn't.
It's not, even though it's all, like you said, it's a bunch of like, letters together, separate, there's still more white there, and that's why it's greater.
Uh-huh.
I always said it doesn't become less, it's just isolated.
No, to me it's hard.
What's the meaning of the isolation?
Why can't you say it becomes less? You're just saying it doesn't become different. It's the same, it's less.
Well,
The Chochmah of Nei HaTzimtzum is more than the Chochmah Achar HaTzimtzum.
Because Chochmah before I was included with a bunch of different things.
Before it was included in Atzmos, now it's outside of Atzmos.
So
the Moshe Ver HaShemesh, the sun's light inside the sun is more concentrated than the sun's light outside of the sun. Now we don't understand why and how, but that's the language that Chassidus uses.
even in 9 days.
I don't see why not. It doesn't Shariach, it doesn't Tanya.
Well, which way of thinking is Tanya using there?
You have to say both. You have to say both. You want to say something?
I'm just thinking.
That's a good idea. It's a very, very good idea.
The whole thing is a contradiction. It's hard to understand exactly what it means. No, I can tell you why.
Can you repeat the question we're grappling with right now?
Why is it more urgent?
That's the question we have on the emotion.
It just isn't it part of a higher source when it's up there. That's all the difference.
My problem is that I can't get away from that Gashmi is the commercial. The one I gave you at the end of the share last night, which I used to use for years, it was like my favorite marshal. I don't like the marshal because it's too magushim. But it's holding me back.
Spit.
I mean, what I'm thinking is, if forget about lifting at tzimtzum, achar at tzimtzum. Yeah, I'm going to ask you a question. Atzilus is eating safe, yes or no? Yeah. Keser is eating safe, yes or no? Yeah. Akudim is eating safe, yes or no? Yeah. Ak is eating safe, yes or no? Yeah. There's something called Olam HaMalbush, which you never have in our Chassidus, but it's brought in the Sforim. Has eating safe, yes or no? Yeah. Now, I want to ask you a question. Is eating safe or not eating safe? So how do you have madregas?
Well, you explained it yourself. You said by each midah you're gonna have, for example, that's a sfiris. Each sfiris is a sfira, but the fnei it's Aron Seif. That's how you explained it. So within the Aron Seif status as it on itself is Aron Seif, but in each darga it's limited. It's Aron Seif in a different way. That's how you explained it to us, no?
Could you visualize Eidin Seif? Could you understand the concept of Eidin Seif? Could you? The whole Chassidus is Eidin Seif. The Alter Rebbe has my mother, Lahav and Eidin Seif. The Tzemach Tzedek has mother, Lahav and Eidin Seif. What you learned in some Rav Nachedish is Lahav and Eidin Seif. The name changed. And the later Rebbeim they called Erve Shefa. But the earlier Rebbeim they called it Pashut Lahav and Eidin Seif. The most difficult concept in Chassidus to understand, also Haskalah, is Eidin Seif. And Mamat itself. It's such a hard thing to explain. And they bring contradictory Mishalim. And you put them together. They put this mushal together with this mushal, together with this mushal, fix it all up and you'll understand. But the Mishalim don't go together. They're Hafchim and Akatz Alakatz. And you have to put them together and then you'll understand anything. And it's a very funny concept. It's a very, very funny concept. It's a very funny concept. It really is a funny concept. Eidin Seif is a very funny concept. It's a very funny concept. You know, when Avodas Ha'adam, the motto of Eidin Seif is Nevuah. Nevuah is Eidin Seif. At least according to Chassidus. And there's Madregas and Nevi'im, as they said in the Rambam. There's Madregas and Nevi'im because there's Madregas of Eidin Seif. What's the difference between this one and this one, right? There's Atzil Shabbat, there's Biyah Shabbat Atzil Shabbat Atzil. Sei gesund und stark, aber guten Tag geht's nicht schlafen. The Higoyen of Eidin Seif, just to understand the concept of Eidin Seif, it's a very, very weird concept. The only way to begin to understand the Eidin Seif is to remember where it's coming from. From Eibishter. And the Eibishter is one. And the Eibishter is one in a way that nothing is not included in him, nothing is outside of him. And somehow he's one. Eidin Seif is reflecting or is revealing, like we like to say, that oneness. That oneness.
So why can I come into like Caleb?
Because Caleb aren't one. Caleb are many.
It's not going to be spheres here inside. It's reflecting the oneness. That's the whole line need to say.
I don't know if I talked about this year. I'm bunch of looking for words. I gave a share last night. I finished the whole Pedic. I finished the whole Pedic. But I don't want to walk away from the Pedic. Ich will nicht absetzen from the Pedic. I don't have anything more to say. I just feel like, A, we didn't explain it well. B, if we did explain it well, es fällt in the Edelkeit. I'm going to give you a dogma. I like this dogma. And maybe it's even a true dogma, okay? And again, I probably spoke about this earlier this year because I don't have new material. I just recycle. Chamesh kanayas. You have no idea how true it is. Chevra, when you're young, your brain works. Everything I know, I learned before 35. It's probably not a guzman. Everything I know, I learned before 35. Before 40 for sure. Der Korb arbeitet nicht. Ich falle an Schlafen mitten alles. In one halacha Rabbi, I fall asleep 4 times. One halacha, heintige halachas. The bisschen letzte Pedig even okay. The last 10 halachas of this last Pedig. That says Pedig Ches, yeah. Pedig Ches, right? Pedig Ches. I was trying to understand it, and I was getting it so superficially. I understood it enough to say that I did not understand it, but I didn't understand it at all, you know.
Well, it's not relevant to us in the slightest.
No, because my brain wasn't working. I don't have your problem.
What?
I'm not a bocher. My life is already established. This is what I do. So I can enjoy Rambam without being worried that it's not going to help me in my panas. This is me, finished. I have the menuchas hanefesh of being an old person. I'm stuck in my ways. This is my life. You're still deciding who you're going to be. So maybe everything is maybe this, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this. So you do nothing. Or a little bit of everything. So I'll give you this dogma, yeah. The Mittler Rebbe has a Maimer of Ishtatchus. And if I told it to you, tell me and I'll say it quicker. The Mittler is Maimer of Ishtatchus. In the Maimer of Ishtatchus, and by the way, I'm just going to make an official Machon from Cheve Veiteda to the whole of Lubavitch. The Rebbe printed the minor Lashon with the Maimer of the Mittler Rebbe. Always. The minor Lashon that we used to read, them all, was square. It wasn't rectangle, it was square, and it was about this big. It was square. It was a copy of the minor Lashon that the Mittler Rebbe printed to learn Sefer Alter Rebbe's Tzion. They just changed the name. Adeshet Nagdom. And the Rebbe printed it with the Maimer Lehovin and Shtachos in the back. After Gimel Tamas for Sheitzach, they retyped it and they made it nicer and all the Sachen, and they took out the Maimer. And I can't understand why. The Rebbe put it in. You don't want to put it in the English Mele, but the Rebbe put it into the countries. Every print of Minor Lashon that was printed by the Rebbe, starting from Tafshin Yud, had the Maimer Shtachos in the back. Now, there's a whole Shaila B'chal, if it's from the Mittler Rebbe, if you look in the Kuntreisen, from the Mittler Rebbe, in the Akdama of this Kuntreis, there's a whole clear who wrote it. We assume it's the Mittler Rebbe, but some people say it's a Hillel, whatever. So maybe, but I don't think the whole of America is firmer than the Rebbe when it comes to such a Yonim. But this Maimer, Hishtachos, he gives 5 reasons to go to a Eil, to Beis Chaim. And he starts with the basics, Maskil Yamamisa. The first one is going to a cemetery in Tisha B'Av. The second one is a cemetery at Rosh Hashanah. And it goes through the five reasons. But the Ikka that I want to talk about is the 4th and the 5th. The first 3 are Musar. The 4th and the 5th are what we call in our culture Hishtachos. Hishtachos really means Pishu Yadayim V'Raglayim. Hishtachos from the word Shatiach, mat. You lay down flat. You go into the Tzion of a tzaddik and you lay down flat. And there are stories of tzaddikim, I think even Marabeim, when they went into the oil, there are even stories of tzaddikim that lay down on the guf kaddish of their Rebbe after the Estalkas Pasha before the Levaya. Hishtachos, you lay down like a mat on top of the guf kaddish of a tzaddik. Flat, vertical, shchiva. What's the pshat in Hishtachos? Pshat in Hishtachos is that when a neshama is in a guf, this is chalkus. His chalkus is reish, leiv, kavit, right? Melach, moyach, leiv, kavit. You walk vertically, the head is higher than the torso, the horse size, and the pelvis. Yeah? The guf is getalt and drain. When a person is nostalgic, chotcha filled, there's still a guf, but mitzad the gilui, the person is neutralized. The moyach is not separate, the leiv is not separate, the covered is separate. All you have is the etzem. And the yachsus to the etzem that everything is equal is by laying down. Right, in Chassidus, there's a bunch of steps, right? There's jumping, there's running, there's walking, there's standing, there's sitting, and there's laying. The Rebbe spoke about it in Beis, vayetze, vayishka b'makam hahu. So usually the lowest madrege is shchiva, you lay down flat. Why? You can't even hold up your weight in a chair. But the flip side of that is laying flat is yichida. That's the havon of Hishtachos. You go to a tzion of a tzaddik. The only access you have to the tzaddik's neshama is that madrege and the neshama which is in a state of pshitus. There's no brain. There is a brain, but you have no access to it. Why? Because the guf is not available to you. You want to know the time? The time is 9:08. Now pay attention. The visions of a person that you have when the neshama is beslabed in the guf are no more, and that's why you lay down flat, because the yachas between the lechol chai and the shabak chayim lechol chai is the yachas of pshitas. There's no levels. It's a simple madrega. That's the significance of laying down flat. Now, I don't advise you to go to the oil and lay down on the tzion flat. Why? Because you're a fed from Fedland. I'm a fed from Fedland. I'm a chamer from Chamerland. You know, this is a greater tzaddikim. Nishtam greater tzaddikim. An ishim elikim ham gat azan hage. You know, we know them in hagim and machzei noch, but some things is better than nicht noch. Right? Now. So what's the pnimis of Ishtatchus? The pnimis of Ishtatchus is that when you come into the place where the tzaddik is, especially when there's an oihel, so your neshama and his neshama share the same space. And because your neshama and his neshama share the same space, there's a concept which is called neshama min neshama ne'etzelis. Now what's Atzilus? It's us Atzilus. What's Atzilus? Atzilus is Chaya. Asiya is Nefesh. Yitzir is Ruach, Bri is Neshama, Tzilus Chaya. What is the Taich Atzilus? Oyer. V'atzalti min Ruach Asher Alecha v'atzalti Aleim. Yeah? So when you come to the tzion of a tzaddik, the level where you could meet is only those levels of the Neshama that are not the Islapjas and the Guf. You listening? The levels of the Neshama which are Islapjas and the Guf, you need the Guf to be Misyachas to them. To talk to a Rebbe, the Rebbe needs physical ears. To speak an Inyan Sichli with a Rebbe, the Rebbe needs a physical moyach. And then there's the slapjas of the neshama in the guf. And when there's the slapjas of the neshama in the guf, there's the chalkas of the neshama. But when you go to Hishtadchus, the concept is that the relationship is between the pshitas of your neshama and the pshitas of the, in other words, not the neshama, the way to be slapjas in the guf, the neshama which is higher than the slapjas in the guf. And that's why it's called Atzilus. Neshama and Neshama Netzelis. You listening? So when you learn the fourth Madrege and the fifth Madrege of Ishtadchos that you have in the middle of Rebbe's Maimer, benegated this Indian, he says, enough minutes to say. One person goes to the Tzion, and he's zoiche that his Neshama and the Neshama of the Rebbe, the Tzaddik, the Nasi, forbid the Zayne Chabitzvah. They connect. And they connect in the kind of way that he's margish. He's margish the Elokus. Yeah, this doesn't happen to us. You know, we hopefully behave when we're inside the space of the oil, and we have a munah belief, sofik or svek that there's a iskashas of a neshama with a neshama, but to feel the neshama, ich mean, we're not in that world b'chlal. But Grace mentioned real people when they go into a holy space, they feel the holiness of the space. They feel the lukus, the neshama's touch. Right? The neshamas are separated because of the guf. But the neshamas are only separated because of the guf. Those madregas in the neshama which are just in the guf. The madregas of the neshama, the biyachas to the guf are called makif. So mitzad echad, they're close to the guf. Like it says, takim in the madreg of nefesh and zayah, which other reasons get kedish kol zayah. But mitzad hasheni, they're not biyachas to the guf, they're around the guf. This is one soul touches another soul on the madrege, which is not beslabjus in the guf. Because the way beslabjus in the guf, the neshama can't touch the neshama. The guf has to touch the guf, because the neshama is available only through the guf. Masha enken, the madreges of the neshama which are outside the guf, those madreges the neshama feels directly. That's why it's called the shtadchus. The idea of shchiva, you're laying down, because it's that madrege of the neshama which doesn't have any ischalkus. But there's two madreges. The first madrege is you go there, you experience the Eidol Liki, and you go away. What do you take with you? Nothing. I can feel. If you get a paar minutes, you can lichtig, you can clod. I don't know what. The highest madrege, the fifth madrege, is you go to the Tzion, and you mishtateach, and you take away what the middle of the Rebbe calls hasagas. That's what he calls it, hasagas. Take away different Torah. I mean, you ask Machon Alex, the Rebbe used to come from the oil dozens of times and walk into 770, sit at her and say Amay Chassidus. But whenever he said a maimer after the oil, it was the beginning of the fabrengen, and he said a maimer with a niggin mamish, it was so obvious that he brought it from the tzien. Couldn't from there, the fabrengen. There was a whole kufa in the lamed, that used to fabrengen after oil, Erev Chedesh, a lot of times. And he would always start with a maimer, it was a maimer with a niggin, because he brought it from there. So I want to ask you a shaila. I want you to think this in here. If the idea of ishtadchus is a neshama touching a neshama, being touched by the neshama, on those madreigas of the neshama that not be slapped just in the guf, makif. So how are there hasagas of seichel? Hasagas of seichel have to do with the slapshas, with pnimius, mayach. You understand? And why is at the higher level? The fourth level is you go to the tziyin, the neshama touches the neshama, your lakus touches the lakus of the tzaddik, and that's what you take away, the lakus. Why is the higher madrega do you come back with a dvatere? I'm asking you a question. Now, in case you're listening, tell me what you think the answer is. Huh?
It brings an effect.
Right, but how does it work? If the whole meeting is the meeting of pshitus of the neshama and the pshitus of the neshama of the tzaddik, and a Torah is not pshitus, it's tzir, it's gvul, it's I mean, the Rebbe came back from the oil and told people what the Rebbe told him. Pashut pshuta. The Rebbe the Shved Yizal kach v'kach. There's so many stories like this. But we don't understand what a Rebbe is. A Rebbe is not a tzaddik. It's a whole different thing. It's a nande zachen ganz, not a shama klolis. But what do you think the vart is? You know what the vart is? When you go to the tziyah and a neshama of a yid and a neshama of a tzaddik join together, what you're getting is ein safe. If you come away with hasaga, it's not the pshat that there's a tzimtzum in the ein safe to bring out the hasaga. It's the pshat that you're zeichet to experience the ein safe in the kind of way that in that ein safe you have the hasaga also. The hasaga is not a tzimtzum in the ein safe. It's a clarity in the ein safe.
How are we able to do that? How do we have to...
If you have enough bittul, your goof is so eisge'etel, and your moyach is so strong, you hear a lakus, and the lakus informs you of a dvatera. But the dvatera is not separate from the lakus. It's the byproduct of the lakus. Think of it in these ways. Ein Seif has everything. Everything. Yeah? If Ein Seif has everything, you have to assume it has Torah also. And it has every Maimach Chassidus. I don't want to go into little things because it's going to become silly. But the way they're in the Ein Seif, they're part of the Pshitas. So if a person meets Ein Seif and he comes away, so there was a great experience. And a person meets Ein Seif, he comes away and says, I have a lot of information. The second person's hasag is deeper than the first. Because the accessing of the Ein Seif is not through his slapshas. The accessing of the seichel, of the pratim, is not through its slapshas. It's an eifn of pshitas. The pshitas of Alakus includes every imaginable tziyah. And you are so sensitive, you're so strong in your muhus, that you take out not just the cloud, but how it comes down to pratim, what we call in our world, as a very serious word and a very, very important word, Teira, Chachmas Hashem HaKadosh Baruch. Chagem anande dugma. It's a bissel zulegen epis. The Arizal is called Balachai. You know that? The Arizal Achai. The Achei Temimim, who was the Baal Shem Tov's Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov never called him by name. The only reason we know that it's Achei Temimim because it says in Tolas Yaakov Yosef. In the Baal Shem Tov's own Torah, it's Meiri V'Rabbi Balachai. He never identifies him by name. One of the Baal Shem Tov, one of the first of the Baal Shem Tov. Now, what's the pshat Balachai? What does it mean? Chai means Chaya Yechida, that's what it means. The Rebbe is on Kutasichas. In Chelik Beis and Deisaf, Pashas Pinchas touching you, the Rebbe spoke about this. This is a long ha'ara. Why Achei Temimim has to be the one to reveal Chassidus, which is preparing the world for Mashiach, because he was the one who divided up Machos Davish and Machos Yisrael. He was the one who gave me Rav Menavat Aseres Tashvatim. But he's considered higher than Eliyahu Navi and today Madriga earlier. So I'm asking you a shaila. What does it mean by Achai? What does it mean by Achai? What does it mean?
Translation?
Ariza Achai. I don't ask for translation. I ask if you have a working brain. Do you use it? It's a nishka minig Lubavitch. It's a nishka
He's
minig.
not safe. He's a bala and safe.
That oil ain't safe is being slapped in his goof. So even though he has a body, he's alive. And he has a body, and the body is buchulak, is divided up. Nefesh is in the kaved, and ruach is in the leiv, and neshama is in the moyach. A person who's in the madrega of chaya yechida means his entire system is in the madrega of Ein Seif. His entire system is in the madrega of oyer, really.
He's allowing his body to be able to be a cleave for Ein Seif.
His body is such a kli for the Ein Seif that the fact that there is seichel is not really seichel. It's Ein Seif. But the Ein Seif shows itself also in seichel. It's Momayla Mamata. It's not he's going from seichel to lakus. He's an eliki b'yetzim. He's an eliki b'yetzim.
Seichel's inner and safe. I mean,
Huh?
it's all inner and safe, no?
Yeah. But Chai Yechida, the highest madrigas of it. In other words, a yid in the neshama beguf, and his mahus, his personality is Yechida. But the Yechida also doesn't have the chesaron of not having nefesh, and not having ruach, and not having neshama. But he doesn't have nefesh, ruach, and neshama as they separate out of the Ein Seif. They're byproducts of his Chaya Yechida. So imagine what kind of person that is. What's that Hasog is? What a koptos is. Very given that Ariza.
Under the bringing out.
B'klal. I'm using this to sort of help us appreciate. Question: what is the concept of Ein Seif? Concept of Ein Seif is everything. Everything together. But everything together could be because everything is together. I don't know nothing. I just got a good feeling. I'm mentioning says Tifer. It's everything together, but you see every detail. But you're not seeing the details. In a Ephron of Mina Prata Laklau, one detail, a second detail, third detail, till Ein Seif. No, you're seeing the details in Ephron Mina Laklau Prat. Since it's Ein Seif, and Ein Seif you have a Prat, and Pirte brought him to the lowest madregas. And if the brain is strong enough, and the goof is edel enough, and the neshama is deep enough, you can take out the pratim and give a shear on it, and it comes straight from Ein Seif. I'm using these examples to verbring about the concept of Ein Seif. What does Ein Seif feel like? There's madregas of Ein Seif. The madregas of Ein Seif are not silas. Madregas of Ein Seif and Kesef. Madregas of Ein Seif and Akudim. They're all Ein Seif. What's the difference? What's the difference?
The details are Chassidus.
What's the difference between a higher Ein Seif and a lower Ein Seif?
No, like how close it? How much of the chachma and all the other details are noticed or whatever, seen, felt?
And which is better, if you feel more, if you feel less? Which is higher, which is deeper?
More.
If you feel more, if you feel less?
More. Not feel, whatever. When you see it in the inside, that's more. That's higher, no? That's literally what you said.
Is this pshat that Sfarim that were written in Nevuah is because of the Gilead of Ein Seif?
Of course. Nevuah?
I'm saying we know that Sfarim up until a certain point.
What? You Ruach HaKodesh.
Ruach HaKodesh, sorry.
I'm talking about Nevuah. I usually I'm the advocate of Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah being in the same kettle. Today we're not putting them in the same drinks. They're two different. Not going to mix drinks. The Rambam considers Ruach HaKodesh part of the law of Madrega Nevuah. It's a different conversation. So what will be the difference in the Ein Seif in the lower world and the Ein Seif in the higher world?
Oh, it's not what I said.
Huh?
It's not what I said.
It's probably what you said. But that's not the Ein Seif, that's the Keli for the Ein Seif. What's the Ein Seif itself?
Why should it? There has to be a difference in the Iron Safe itself.
Sure, there is. The Kabbalah says it very clearly. This is Gili, this is Helam, this is Etzem.
1 second, Gili and Helam, it doesn't change the Iron Safe.
It absolutely does. I mean, our Pedic is saying exactly that. Gili is lower than Helam. So you need to. There's a contradiction here. The lower madregas they didn't say the pratim are more brought out.
What?
Yeah.
The pratim are more brought out. The higher madregas they didn't say their whole mila is that the pratim are more clear.
Wow.
You got to stop being emotional and start listening.
Gilui versus being clear in it.
In other words, the highest madregas nelakus are not makif, are not pshitos. They're ain't safe, but in the ain't safe, every detail is expressed. But in the higher madregas, the pratim are much closer to the pshitos. They're a byproduct of the ain't safe. In the lower madregas, they're already the beginning of the emerging from the ain't safe, coming out of the ain't safe. So in the lower madregas, what makes the lower madrega lower than the higher madregas is chalkus. Gilui is chalkus. But what, the fact that lower madrega ain't safe means that the pratim that include in the ain't safe are, have no other choice but to use races, are more mulmata l'mayla, are more from the prat of the cloud. And in the higher madregas, it's more mulmata l'mata. So the holiest Yidden are the most simple Yidden, and everything is clear. Everything is clear. Every prat is clear. But they're never nervous. You know why? Because they don't have to work for it. It's a byproduct of their holiness. It's a milmayla lamata.
In it.
It's a consequence of it. It's a byproduct of it. So the Rebbe here is trying to explain to us how Chochmah is lifnei atzimtzum, how Chochmah is lachar atzimtzum. On the one hand, it's the same Chochmah. On the other hand, there's a big Yerida. Because before the Tzimtzum is Pshita, so Beila has no Gilui. Before the Tzimtzum is, when he used the Lashon, Oyer Muflav and Aylamiyat, 4 lines from the bottom page of Mamchas. A lot of very beautiful Asias. In La'achar Tzimtzum, it's reduced. So what is the nafkamin in Goyim? What's the sheikhadika difference between how the Ein Seif of Chochmah is included in the Ein Seif of Lefnei Tzimtzum and the Ein Seif of Chochmah exists? Now, if you say Ein Seif of Chochmah of Lefnei Tzimtzum is part of Seif of Kalalman, fine, that's a different thing. But we don't want to say that because Lefi Drush Zeh, it's Gili Ahelim, it's not Yesh Meyayim. If we hold that Chochmah Achar Tzimtzum is coming from an Oyer which is basically Seif of Kalalman, that's his Chachos, that will be Yesh Meyayim. Since Lefi Drush Zed, as the Chochmah after the Tzimtzum, is coming from Chochmah Lefnei Tzimtzum. And it's only Miyot. It's only Gili Adam. What's the difference? Chochmah and Ein Seif are together. And you really shouldn't say Chochmah and Ein Seif are together. Ein Seif has a tzir of Chochmah, beginning with Ein Seif. And somehow Lefnei Tzimtzum, the echos of the Chochmah is included in the Ein Seif on a higher level for the various reasons that he gives. And La'achar HaTzimtzum, the echos of the Chochmah is included in the Ein Seif on a lower level because the Oyer is less. So what is Oyer? The Shir finishes exactly where you start. It's you never finish this conversation. This shmooze is called Haskalah, and it's called Hafshata, and it's Mistama called Baba Maisis. I mean, if Emes Hashteit Chassidus would come in and listen to this, he would probably throw cold water at me. I'm learning this with you. I'm talking this over with you. I did this because I Pasha don't want to go away from Perek Chov Gimel. Not because I love Chov Gimel so much, but I feel like I didn't teach it. So there's a lot of words. It's pshitas and it's not pshitas. It's achtas and it's not achtas. It's a higher gil, it's a lower gil. He even had the ages of pnimis and chitanius, which we're going to see more of in the next Perek. But the issue on the table is Ein Seif. The issue on the table is Ein Seif with Svidus, which is very weird. It's it really is very weird. And I said to him, I mean the word weird the way physicists use the word weird. It's weird because it doesn't make sense. Now we don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. As a Sfiras and Oyed is halfway between Bli Gvul and Gvul. What does that mean? Is it Bli Gvul, it's Gvul. And then we're saying in the Esses Sfiras and there Guf and this Dargis. So it's time to have a Ma'ariv, yeah? What did we do? We repeated the same confusion from yesterday. But Baruch Hashem, I feel satisfactorily confused that next week we can go on to the confusion of the next Pedic in the Ma'ariv.
How about the snap?
It's better than the colored lights, the white light and the colored lights, don't you think?
Yeah.
You see the difference? You see what bothered me about last night's year?
Guys, I'm gonna just say it enough for a second. See, the pile is that the part of Esses, the Gnuzis? It's the Gnuzis that when they're in before.
The specific ideas that the Rebbe talks about in the Maimed I'm not touching.
Oh.
But the Klolos de Kazach, to verstehen the Chilik between Lifnei Atzimt and Lachar Atzimt. This is why we're having this conversation.